Have you ever noticed how some seasons of life arrive without warning? One day everything feels alive, electric, filled with momentum, and the next, it is as though someone has turned the volume down on the entire world. The phone is quiet. The inspiration that once rushed through you now drips like a slow faucet. The spark in your chest feels dim, almost unreachable. You wake and realize the morning light carries no song. Nothing is exactly wrong, but nothing feels fully right either. And in that muted in-between, the voice of the mind speaks sharply. You are stuck. That single word lands like a stone. Stuck. As if the current of your life has abandoned you. As if movement itself has been denied. Yet what if that interpretation is the illusion? What if the absence of noise, of progress, of clarity is not evidence of failure at all, but evidence of initiation? What if the quiet is sacred? We live in a culture that worships motion, more steps, more milestones, more outcomes to validate our worth. So when the surface of life grows still, the ego panics. It tells you you're behind. It tells you you're losing. But the truth is softer, stranger, and infinitely more generous. Stillness is not emptiness. It is recalibration. It is the subtle frequency of a new path being woven, one thread at a time, beneath the surface of your awareness. Across spiritual traditions, this stage is called the void. Not a punishment, not a failure, but a holy pause. In the language of quantum physics, it is the fertile space between possibilities, the field that holds infinite outcomes before one takes form. To human perception, it feels like nothing. To your nervous system, it feels like uncertainty. But in the deeper sense, it is the soil from which transformation germinates. Think of a seed buried underground. From the surface, it looks like nothing is happening. But in the dark, in the unseen, the seed is breaking apart. The husk splits, the old structure disintegrates, and in that quiet destruction, a root begins to push its way into the unknown. The plant does not yet exist, but the blueprint has already awakened. That is the stage you are in. The stage where what you were is dissolving, and what you are becoming is silently preparing its first breath. Your ego will resist this unraveling. It has been trained to equate productivity with meaning, speed with value, certainty with safety. So when life hands you a pause, the ego interprets it as failure. It says you are being left behind. It says you are missing your chance. But look closer. Beneath that noise, your energy is reorganizing. Your perception is shifting. Your nervous system is learning to hold a new frequency. This is not regression, it is recoding. Consider the caterpillar hidden inside its cocoon. From the outside, the cocoon appears lifeless. From the inside, the caterpillar's body has dissolved into liquid. There is no map, no certainty, no guarantee. Only surrender to a process it cannot control. And yet from that formless chaos, a winged being emerges. The most miraculous part of transformation is not the flight, it is the surrender that happens before. The letting go of what was, so something new can be born. That is where you are now. The ground may feel unsteady. The familiar markers of progress may have disappeared. And the temptation will be to fight, to force, to rush toward the next clear sign of direction. But forcing will only harden the soil around you. The invitation is to trust, to soften, to remember that what looks like stillness is, in truth, the movement of energy rearranging itself in ways your eyes cannot yet see. Every timeline shift comes with what I call the vibrational lag, the space where your external life hasn't caught up with your internal becoming. Your field is updating, your system is repatterning. The old identity is being unstitched thread by thread, and the new identity is weaving itself together with frequencies too subtle for the mind to measure. This is why it feels empty. This is why it feels off. But absence is not loss, it is preparation. The hardest part of the void is the lack of evidence. The mind craves proof. It wants steps to follow, outcomes to hold, validations to cling to. But the field wants something else entirely. It wants your presence, your honesty, your willingness to sit in the mystery and ask, what is leaving me now? What is quietly arriving through me? These are not questions for the intellect to answer. They are questions for the heart to live. So if you find yourself here, in this strange suspended moment where the old no longer fits and the new has not yet appeared, remember you are not broken, you are not behind, you are being remade. The pause is sacred, the silence is holy. And this in-between, this stretch of nothingness, is the chrysalis where your next self is quietly forming. Do not rush it, do not judge it. Trust that the emptiness you feel is not an absence of power, but the shifting of power into a form that will soon reveal itself. You are not stuck, you are becoming. And one day soon, what now feels like a void will show itself as the birthplace of your wings. What life is asking of you in this moment is not accomplishment, but alignment. You are standing in the threshold of transformation, neither trapped nor broken, but suspended between frequencies. And it is precisely in this pause, in this quiet gap, that new realities begin to weave themselves. You are not late, you are not powerless, you are in transition, and transition feels like void. This void is not the absence of life, it is the recalibration between worlds. To the logical mind, it feels like failure. To the quantum field, it is the signal of birth. Physics gives us metaphors here. A particle can exist in many states at once, until observation collapses it into form. The in-between is not emptiness. It is all possibilities at once, waiting for coherence to guide their emergence. Schrödinger's cat is not a riddle for philosophers. It is a mirror for us. Your future is already alive in potential. But until your energy chooses, until your heart anchors a resonance, it remains undefined. You are not stuck. You are unshaped, waiting for remembrance. And as you realign with the truth of who you are, the possibilities around you collapse into a singular reality that reflects your frequency. Then comes another law of the quantum world: decoherence. When particles meet their environment, the many possibilities condense into one. For us, that environment is memory, conditioning, the echo of old wounds, the rhythm of stress we've rehearsed. At first, this dismantling feels like destruction. Yet it is not an ending, it is the bridge. The interference pattern of your former self is being dissolved, so the design of your next self can be revealed. Collapse feels painful, but it is also liberation. This unraveling takes time. Your nervous system cannot rewire itself in a single breath. Your heart does not rewrite its rhythm with a single affirmation. That is why the void feels so disorienting. It is not that you are failing, it is that your inner system has been trained for repetition, not for transformation. Yet every evolution begins in this energetic clearing, and here coherence becomes your anchor. Modern research has shown that the human heart is not only a muscle pumping blood, it is a broadcasting center, radiating patterns of coherence into the field around you. When you shift into clarity, into gratitude, into quiet calm, your electromagnetic field reorganizes. The void no longer feels like collapse. It begins to stabilize, not because you force it, but because you learn to dwell in presence. You are not commanded into your next form, you are invited. And for that invitation to take root, the void must be held with acceptance, not fear. Feel the strangeness. Let the emptiness breathe. Whisper to your own body, I see you. I know this is unfamiliar, but I am not leaving, because this 0 point, both in quantum physics and in your soul, is where universes are conceived. If avoided, the void turns stale. It hardens into inertia. But when embraced with awareness, it becomes fertile ground. Let that recognition steady you now. The space between timelines is not a wall you cannot pass. It is a womb holding what you are about to become. So breathe deeply, not to summon the next identity, not to chase the next role, but simply to remain present, to anchor yourself in this in-between, to allow the silence to be exactly what it is, the soil from which your new horizon will rise. Allow peace to cradle the turbulence of your becoming. Let your body relearn steadiness even as chaos swirls around you. You are not broken, you are not failing, you are in motion, even when it feels like standstill. This strange pause you find yourself in, the void, is not a malfunction. It is the very signal that your new identity is being encoded into your being. In the quiet of uncertainty, the body speaks in ways the mind cannot. It doesn't speak in logic or strategies. It whispers through sensation, a weight in your chest, a tightening in the throat, a tremor just behind your eyes. These are not symptoms of failure. They are signals, emotional frequencies of transition, reminding you that you are suspended between who you were and who you are becoming. Every flicker of discomfort is your system attempting to realign. Yet the mind interprets these tremors as threat. The brain, built for survival, floods the body with protective chemistry, adrenaline, contraction, fog. These signals are designed to shield you, but in moments like this, they create the illusion of deeper stuckness. It is like trying to melt ice by adding more frost, an effort that reinforces the very state you want to dissolve. The body does not understand the concept of timelines. It only knows resonance. And right now, your resonance is asking to be tuned. In quantum mechanics, a system suspended in superposition holds many potential states, but observation collapses it into one. That act of observation is never neutral. It carries the flavor of energy, the weight of emotion. Collapse through fear, and reality reflects contraction. Collapse through presence, and reality organizes into coherence. This is why the emotional frequency you embody matters far more than the strategies you employ. Neuroscience affirms what quantum wisdom has always suggested. Your emotions do not merely react to your path, they shape it. The body holds memory of resistance in its chemistry, in the rhythms of cortisol and tension. When those rhythms dominate, your next timeline cannot take root. What feels like inertia is not to be fought, but to be honored. So the question becomes, how do you move with the void rather than remain paralyzed within it? Not by sheer will, not by tightening your grip. The transformation begins with acknowledgement. This is where the void becomes alchemical. You ground yourself not by erasing what you feel, but by allowing it to exist in the open. Presence becomes your stabilizer. Notice what rises. The anxiety is not your enemy. It is simply scattered energy seeking rhythm. The confusion is not a flaw. It is the ghost of your old self clinging to familiar ground. The heaviness is not collapse. It is the compression of a new blueprint, compacting itself before it expands into form. When you treat these states not as obstacles, but as messengers, the void softens. What once felt unbearable becomes sacred. The signals shift from threats to invitations. And in that subtle shift, your field begins to reorganize. You are not asked to be fearless. You are asked to be honest, to let the trembling in your chest be felt without judgment, to breathe with the knot in your throat without rushing to cut it away, to let the heaviness rest, knowing it is the seedbed of something vast. Because presence does not erase the void, it transforms it. It takes what once felt like chaos and reveals it as raw potential, waiting for coherence. And the coherence is born not through force, but through your willingness to be here, exactly as you are. This pause, this quiet hum of energy, is not a wall. It is a birthplace. Let yourself feel its texture. Let your chest carry the vibration of becoming. Let each breath be the passage between what has already ended and what is quietly arriving. Notice your heartbeat, not as a scoreboard of success or failure, but as a messenger of resonance. This is emotional intelligence in motion, the body sensing shifts long before the mind names them. The world outside may appear paused, but inside a spark is already glowing. It may not yet be visible, but it is alive, flickering with the rhythm of your becoming. That spark is the signal. When you let its warmth radiate without resistance, your field begins to retune itself. So you stop pushing, you receive, you stop avoiding, you listen, you stop rushing, you allow. What feels like stillness is not stagnation. It is architecture being drawn in the unseen. It is the scaffolding of emergence. Your new timeline is not hidden behind the fog, it lives within you. And when you soften into what you feel with honesty, when you let awareness sink gently into your body, the fog begins to dissolve. Not because the outside world has rearranged itself, but because your frequency has shifted. You are not stuck. You are crossing. You are walking the invisible bridge between what was and what is becoming. This suspension, this blur of in-betweens, is the very ground where profound transformation grows. This is not a time for force, but for embodiment. The ritual now is not about doing more. It is about remembering deeper, not about effort, but about resonance. Begin here. Sit or stand with presence. Close your eyes softly. Let your breath be the thread that carries you, not to calm down, but to awaken to the living silence within. Inhale awareness. Exhale resistance. Allow the body to loosen around itself, as if every cell is given permission to arrive. You are not rushing anywhere. You are arriving here, in the spaciousness where the shift takes place. Now place your hands upon your heart, not as a plea, but as a return. This is not symbolic. The heart is not a metaphor. It is the strongest electromagnetic field your body creates, extending far beyond the mind. It carries information. It communicates. Science calls it coherence. Mystics call it communion. Whatever the language, your heart is a tuning fork. Feel the rhythm beneath your palm, not with urgency, but with surrender. Each pulse radiates through your body, carrying its song into the void. Every beat whispers, I am reorganizing. Every thrum declares, I am preparing for the next timeline to root itself in me. As you feel this hum, choose 2 words, not affirmations that force, but acknowledgments that anchor. 2 words that feel like truth in your chest. Let them rise. Let them resonate. Let them imprint themselves into the frequency you are becoming. I trust the void. Let this phrase echo through your body, flowing into your tissue, your nerves, the places that once held tension, now resting in stillness. This is not about comfort. It is about coherence. Because a quantum transition has never been about destination. It has always been about alignment. And when you are aligned, new realities gather, not outside of you, but within your energetic field. So breathe into that alignment. Hold this moment. Even if the outside world does not change instantly, your signal on the inside is enough. This is the language of transition. This is the seedbed of synchronicity. When you are ready, let your gaze soften back to the room around you, to the ordinary world you move through. Carry this resonance into the next small thing, a thought, a pause, a word. Let stillness become your new foundation, not performance, but presence. Whisper it again, I trust the void. Let it become your frequency signature. Imagine this phrase leaving your lips like a subtle broadcast, not loud, but powerful, not forceful, but steady. It does not declare that you are blocked. It affirms that you are unfolding. Because transformation has never lived in the doing. It lives in the being. And right now in this stillness, you are not lost. You are transforming. You are at the edge of everything reconfiguring itself. The universe does not rebuild from chaos. It realigns from coherence. And just before that shift becomes visible, there is a weaving, quiet, subtle, inside you. Not fireworks, not drama. A delicate pattern of nerves, breath, and energy rearranging into rhythm. This is integration, the hidden moment when your internal shift locks into place and your outer reality starts to respond. At first, you may notice it as silence in your mind. The noise that used to crowd your thoughts begins to fade. Your nervous system, tired of constant tension, learns to rest in stillness. Emotions that once screamed, fear, doubt, urgency, begin to soften. You feel lighter. Not because solutions suddenly appeared, but because your inner field shifted its frequency. The fog does not lift through force, it clears through resonance. This is not mystery, it is coherence, and it can be measured. Research shows that when the heart, the breath, the brain, and the emotions fall into rhythm together, they stabilize each other. Not in the frantic flow of doing, but in the grounded flow of being. This synchronization does not stop at the surface. It ripples into your biology, harmonizing heart and brain activity, calming the storms of survival chemistry, and opening space for clarity. The HeartMath Institute calls this physiological coherence. It reduces stress, sharpens awareness, and builds a foundation for alignment to take root. When your systems come into rhythm, your field no longer broadcasts confusion. It transmits clarity. That is when life stops buffering. That is when what you've been sensing internally begins to manifest externally. The message you were waiting for arrives, not through control, but through timing. The idea you carried quietly within becomes the exact conversation you walk into. The nudge you felt in silence becomes the doorway opening before you. Synchronicity is not random. It is coherence answering coherence. Movement does not begin with striving. It begins with resonance. Picture yourself walking through a thick fog. You cannot force it to lift. But when your frequency aligns, the fog softens, and the path reveals itself, not by removal, but by illumination from within. Suddenly the landscape is visible, not because you built it, but because clarity was already waiting. The fog is not banished, it is transmuted, and not every integration arrives with grandeur. Often it whispers in subtleties. A question dissolves without effort. A door opens quietly, unannounced. A coincidence appears with the precision of a compass. Reality reshapes itself in ways that feel more like poetry than construction. And if confusion circles back, let it. Integration rarely travels in straight lines. It is not mechanical, it is relational. The field is reorganizing through you. You are not scrambling to control. You are allowing resonance to calibrate. That instant when your inner state meets the field's vibration, that is the invisible switch. It is not ambition, it is not striving, it is coherence. Pause now. Notice the subtle shift around you. Perhaps your breath feels different, or the air seems lighter. Perhaps your body carries less urgency. This is integration weaving itself through your awareness. Reality is not trying to catch up to you, it is arriving with you. Integration has never been about fixing. It has always been about aligning. And when alignment becomes the ground you stand on, life rearranges in response. Not because you forced it, but because you embodied it. You have walked through the void, not by conquering it, not by fixing yourself. You endured it, you listened, you breathed into the uncertainty until something within you shifted. And now, you are not the same being who entered this passage. The old self dissolved. A new resonance emerged. A voice within calls you to live in rhythm with it. This is your quantum threshold, and the invitation is simple. Step forward, not back into what was, but into the version of you that already exists on the other side. You do not need to declare it. You do not need to prove it. You embody it. This is not a grand finale with trumpets and fire. This is a shift of subtle frequency. It is allowing your choices to echo the coherence you have cultivated in silence. Tomorrow when you wake, you may not feel dramatically different, but something will have shifted. A conversation will feel easier. Time will feel softer. The air around you will hold less weight. Not because the world itself transformed overnight, but because you are no longer carrying the vibration you once carried into it. This is embodiment. When a quantum timeline stabilizes, it is not sealed by belief alone. It is anchored by behavior that mirrors your alignment. When doubt rises again, you do not wrestle it. You meet it with breath. When the old impulse to control appears, you do not collapse into urgency. You return to presence. And when fear whispers, "What if nothing changes?" you answer with a quiet smile, "It already has." Because the truth is, the field does not respond to your words. It responds to your state. And your state has changed. Now you live as the version of you who has already crossed. You move slower, not from hesitation, but from groundedness. You speak with clarity, not to persuade, but because your voice carries coherence. You listen more deeply, not to fix, but to hear the wisdom between the silences. This is what it means to walk through. Integration is not a climax. It is an embodiment. The void was never your enemy. It was the chrysalis, the space where you surrendered long enough for your next self to form. And now as you walk forward, you do not need to grasp. You simply live. Your frequency leads, reality follows, and everything begins to respond in kind. You no longer rush to prove yourself. You no longer wait for evidence outside, because now you are the evidence. The shift lives within your breath, your choices, your quiet presence. Reality bends, not because you forced it, but because your frequency has rewritten the script. From this moment on, let your days unfold with awareness instead of effort. Let your work, your connections, your inner dialogue carry the softness of this new resonance. And when you forget, as all of us do, you don't collapse, you return. That is the essence of mastery. Not perfection, but loyalty to your frequency. If ever you need a reminder, come back to this stillness. Return to this truth. Allow it to recalibrate you again and again until your being naturally hums with coherence. Because you are no longer waiting at the threshold. You are the threshold. You are the field in motion. And if these words resonate, let them ripple further. Leave a line below, share the moment you felt the shift, or simply write, "I trust the void." Not for me, but for you, for your own frequency to anchor even deeper. When one voice speaks from alignment, it strengthens the field for us all. You are no longer searching, you are becoming, and this journey is just beginning.